Hello, my name is Ben Smith, and I'm going to talk to you about transitioning a traditional WebSphere application to the cloud. My co-author on these slides was Prashant Gupta. First, I'll show you how to use the WebSphere Migration Toolkit to analyze and refactor DayTrader, a traditional full-profile WAS application, into a Liberty app that's cloud-ready. Next, I'll show you how to customize the IBM Liberty Docker image on Bluemix to include this cloud-enabled app. Then, I'll show you how to use the IBM DevOps Services pipeline to both build and deploy the Docker image into the IBM Container Service. Finally, I'll also describe how to bind these Docker containers to Bluemix services. To begin, we'll refactor DayTrader into a cloud-enabled WebSphere Liberty app. Here, I have DayTrader imported into Eclipse with the Migration Toolkit installed. I start off by creating a new runtime configuration for the Software Analyzer. The Software Analyzer allows many types of static analysis rules, so I will select a subset of rules related to Liberty Profile. Within this set, I can choose my target environment, which in this case is IBM Bluemix. The migration rules will look for things in my web application that will need to be modified to work in Bluemix. For example, one rule shows me if I am using a SQL database on the back end, since in Bluemix I will need to create and bind a database service instance and configure my app to utilize this service. Let's run the configuration and see our results. Here we can see that the Migration Toolkit has detected an instance of using SQL on the back end. Now we would go through these results and fix or refactor our application to be ready for Bluemix. For more information on the process of using the migration tools to update Java code and configuration for Liberty, see our additional video on this topic, which is linked in the description. After refactoring DayTrader to run in Liberty, I can show how it works on my local installation of Eclipse. DayTrader is a typical Java EE6 application that was built to demonstrate performance features of traditional WebSphere. Using the WebSphere development tools, I will start up my local copy of Liberty with DayTrader installed. After DayTrader is running, I will need to initialize the DB2 backend that's running on my local machine by first creating the schema, setting the maximum number of users and trades to precede, and then initialize the database with that sample data. While that's happening, I can show you logging in as an example user and making a trade. After refactoring our application to run inside a Bluemix container, we would end up with this repository, which we have posted to IBM DevOps Services. The Docker file tells Bluemix how to build the Docker image, starting from the IBM Container Service Liberty image. We copied the DB2 JDBC driver as well as the built and compiled WAR file of our application into the image so that they are there when the container starts. The same is true for a custom server.xml that we have constructed, which configures the DayTrader app. This server XML includes a list of Liberty features that DayTrader utilizes, as well as a JNDI resource for the database that DayTrader uses to store its customer accounts and trades. Now that we have our source repository for our Docker image, let's feed that into the DevOps pipeline. The first stage of the pipeline should be using the Docker file to construct a Docker image on the Bluemix Container Service infrastructure. We add a build job to this phase of the pipeline and tell DevOps Services that this will be an IBM Container Service build. DevOps Services will then sync with our Bluemix account to determine what organ space should be used for building this image. Next, we'll want to create a stage of the pipeline to deploy the resultant Docker image as a container group in IBM Container Service. Once again, we'll add a job to this stage, but this time it will be a deploy job that puts our containers on the container service. This time we'll want to pick out a name for the container group and also the port the web application will be available on. Environment variables allow further customization of how this build process will take place. We'll set the host name for the web application, and also the domain name. We'll also set a Cloud Foundry application to bind to. We bind to a Cloud Foundry application to get access to other Bluemix services from inside the IBM Container Service. In this case, we created Container Bridge to expose access to the DB2 service from Bluemix. This app doesn't cost us any resources to run since it is a placeholder. Let's look at what one trip through the pipeline looks like. We can already see some results in the pipeline from previous executions of the various stages. We'll start by kicking off the container build stage. After the stage has started, we can drill in to see what's going on inside the infrastructure and look at step-by-step logs of the process. All done. The pipeline has continued on, though, and started the deployment phase. Again, we can drill down into the step-by-step logs for the job. All done, we can return to the high-level view of the pipeline and see that this pass was successful. Now we can go to the Bluemix dashboard and see our 2 running Docker instances in our container group. We can also drill into each instance and see how it has been performing. And we can see that DayTrader is running fine in Liberty and Bluemix.